Volleyball podcast. My name is Mark Burrick, and today we're going to talk about how to find partners when you don't necessarily live near anyone that you want to play with, or you can't quite find them. You're trying to find matches for yourself, whether you're above a certain level or below a certain level. We know that it's really hard to actually find people to train with, people who are of the same mind and want to actually get better. And then actually, who can sign up for a tournament, who might be willing to travel, who might be willing to show up on the Saturday. So if you're here, ready to listen, we're going to talk about that and a whole lot more. So before we introduce our guests for today, I do want to let you guys know that we have 24 spots available this year. There's 12 for myself, Mark Burrick. There's 12 for Brandon. What we're going to do is we're going to help 24 players make it through an entire competitive season. And that's not spring to September, right? We're not talking about just the summer season, but we're each going to get a cohort of 12 players, and we're going to work one-on-one with them. And we're going to guide you starting this fall. We're going to guide you through the preseason, building your strength, building your speed, building your game knowledge, getting your ball touches at home and getting your ball control touches at home. If you have a court or an indoor facility or it's warm enough near you, yes, we can guide you through those off-season practices, but we're going to take you and show you what it's like to actually do a full season where you're prepared physically, where you're prepared nutritionally, and where you're prepared in terms of knowing what you should do on the court, multiple situations, as well as building up your skill set of fundamentals. So if that sounds like something that you want to do, if you want people with AVP experience taking you through your entire season and helping you, guiding you, and showing you what it is, you're going to get private videos with us. You're going to get meetings with us. You're going to get my personal phone number so that we can communicate in your regular, every day ongoing. Before your practice, you want to shoot me a text. After your practice, you want to shoot me a text. We are here to help coach you and guide you through the next season. And right now, the only way that we have to do that is head on over to your email support@betteratbeach.com and let us know that you are interested in the 1-year training program. Would love to work with you. I've only got 12 spots because I'm actually really dedicating myself fully to these 12 athletes, right? We're moving away from the large group, and we want to focus on a few players and get them to the next level, get them to the next level of tournaments, next level of plays. So if you want an AVP player guiding you through every step of your preseason, off-season, in-season, and telling you about strategy, skills, fundamentals, giving you every single practice plan and every single workout, I'm ready for you, ready and waiting. So just email support@betteratbeach.com if that sounds like something you are interested in. Let's move to today's show. So my guest today is actually a good buddy, and I'm just excited to talk to him. He is in our private little, I don't know, text group, friend group, whatever you call it. You know how when you guys start playing volleyball and you eventually end up making all of your best friends from within that sport? That's what happened to us. We've got a great crew of friends. We call ourselves the East Coast Mafia, and we might share a couple of those stories, but really we want to talk about finding partners and how this season was, the 2022 AVP season, how it was, and also reffing your local leagues and what it's like to ref local tournaments and the problems with having players as refs versus actual professional trained refs. So we're going to touch on a lot today, and I'm just pumped to talk to him. Chris Vaughan, what's going on, good buddy?
What's up, guys? Stoked to be here.
I'm stoked to have you. I like your shirt. For those of you who are listening, Vaughan's wearing a Better at Beach shirt. You guys can check that out at betteratbeach.com/shop if you want to get some of our apparel. Looks great. Your stash looks fantastic. I'm still sour about my loss to you. You and Jeff Samuels took me and Donahue out in Atlantic City.
Well, we didn't take you out. We just knocked you into the loser's bracket.
Which essentially was the first blow. I mean,
yeah. I thought I was going to see you in the final for sure.
I know we were close. We were a few points away. Dropped to Deshay and Dentler, who I don't mind losing to at all. I mean, it's nice. The Atlantic City Big Shots for us has become just a meeting of the boys.
Yeah.
You know, it's a tournament that some years it's got this is crazy. Maybe we could talk about this. Some years Atlantic City Big Shots, right? It's the end of the year tournament. It always happens in mid-September. When I started, it was like a big deal. It was that end of the season tournament. A few other players would show up. They would always put on a little money. And East End Volleyball with Rich Hylas and Gav, Great American Volleyball with Wayne Gant, they would always create a few tournaments that got you a free room to this big end of season tournament, and sometimes travel. And it was like, yeah, hell yeah, Atlantic City, you know, we're going to go to casino and all the big boys are going to show up. That tournament has like fluctuated. It's gone from kind of almost nobody shows up to all of a sudden it's a full-blown AVP tournament. But this year was weird. There was, again,
this was the smallest I think yet.
Right.
Like, but we had good talent at the top, right? Just small overall. Yeah.
Yeah. I did you get any of the tournament hotel rooms from it?
I did. I won the one. I mean, I guess it was probably the first one they gave out. Dave Palm and I won it down in Florida, one of those events down there, Singer Island. Yeah.
Okay. Nice. So okay, so you got like the free hotel room, which they're still doing. This one was weird because all the players they threw an Atlantic City tournament for a lot of the AVP players in, I guess it was a tour event in August, the beginning of August, something like that.
August or July, yeah, one of them.
And everybody roasted their feet. Center court, stadium court was brutal in terms of there was like 18 people watching. You know, if you go back and you watch the YouTube videos, and people literally were crawling off the beach because their feet got blistered. There were no sand socks, nothing like that offered. I guess you could say to all volleyball players, hey, you should be prepared for all conditions. But it's like, you know, maybe a tournament organizer should offer some sand socks if you know that the sand's going to be brutal. And a few people got their feet cut. Like, it's Atlantic City. There's no lies about it. Like, it is not a beautiful, pretty beach.
It was like a perfect storm of bad, unfortunately. You know, it was like if you put it at the end of the beach where they have been hosting some of the bigger ones, you don't get any foot traffic. It's too far away from the casino, so nobody bystanders, you know, just gonna walk down and check it out. You lose the crowd, and then it happened to be on maybe one of the hottest 2 weekends of the year, so the sand was roasting. Yeah, it was.
1 second.
It was brutal. I think that Jeff's feet were still feeling it by the next time he was there. Yeah. It was crazy.
Oh, no. Chris, can you hear me?
Did we lose you? I can hear you. I can hear you now. You're just frozen, but I can hear you. It's a great looking face, too, on the frozen picture.
I don't know if Chris can hear me. We're kind of going to wait for the internet to come back. If you guys are in the chat, if you're here live, go ahead and write in the chat. Let me know if you can hear me.
There you go. Your picture's back. Can you? Maybe I can message you.
Hey, I'm back.
All right, there you go. Nice. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I got you.
Okay, we could hear you the whole time. Just your picture froze, but I guess you couldn't hear me.
I'm in New York. They apparently don't have great internet in New York City. So I'm at my parents'. Okay, so we finished, or like I got kind of cut off. So maybe the podcast will get cut off. But we got cut off at it was the perfect storm.
Perfect storm of bad. I was saying that basically it was hot, like one of the 2 hottest weekends of the year, and they put us at the beach like far away from everything. So no foot traffic. It was just unfortunate. And now everyone's like, oh, I don't want to go back to Atlantic City.
Do you think that's what happened? Do you think people got burnt out from Atlantic City? Do you think that the prize money was like too low? Like, to be honest, like we're really tight with you're a lot tighter with him, with Wayne Gant, who got kind of very big leadership role within the AVP and AVP America. Do you think that they burnt out players from wanting to come to Atlantic City? Like, was Atlantic City at the end of the year really successful because it was the only Atlantic City tournament, you know?
And it's like the only Northeast tournament it has been. So like
Mm.
when you add another Atlantic City tournament in, and then you get some other closer ones, Muskegon's kind of it's a little more
Ugh,
centralized, but and I mean the other one in Atlantic City was $50,000. So
that's right.
now $10,000 go to Atlantic City again, where I was miserable last time. People just don't want to come back, I think.
That's a good point, right? There was a $50,000 one. People who lost realized how expensive and how kind of brutal it is to get to Atlantic City. Like you got to fly into either Philly or New York, unless you want to drop the extra $300-400 to fly directly into Atlantic City. And then hotels there, accommodations is just brutal. And it's not brutal for volleyball players, it's brutal for everybody. And then volleyball players historically typically don't want to spend that much money or don't have enough, especially if you're trying to play on tour, you're in your early 20s and you're sacrificing a career or you're spending time away from your career to try to make it or try to like be a legit tour player. That's tough.
Yeah, I think they got to do something to bring that one back. Maybe combine it. Maybe make the big shot, like if they're going to do another $50,000 tournament, make it that weekend. Like I don't see
Didn't
why
they
not.
try that? Didn't the AVP say that they were having like another one for the Big Shots weekend, and then they said no, we're not. It's no longer an AVP stop. Now it's a East End Volleyball or a GAV stop, like an AVP America, whatever you want it.
You're right, they did cancel. I think because so many people were miserable after the first one.
Hmm.
So maybe that has something to do with it. Maybe in the future they just run one. They can kind of combine them. But you're right. I forgot that it was originally supposed to be the same weekend.
Yeah, sucks, and it just the problem that I know that like I had, that Brandon had, that a lot of players like Rafi Paulus, who probably had the best year of his career, right? All these guys are like, we're going to these cities where it's impossible to get to. It's not possible, right? But the airports are 2 or 3 hours away. There's nothing really around it. It's not easy to get to. And then because those cities know that all these people descend onto this tournament that weekend every year, all the hotel prices just get jacked up. And so, yeah, okay, you might be offering some prize money, which it might be a little bit of incentive for open or pro players. But then when you look at the actual costs and you go, huh, if I get into the semis, I break even.
Yeah.
Like, wow.
It was tough. I mean, this season was really tough to make money.
And
It
you
was,
could sit in Philadelphia, you could sit in Pennsylvania, right? And just clean up in grass tournaments and make way more playing a Pennsylvania grass season than you ever could, like doing really well in all the AVP tour stops. I'm not going to include like the AVP pro, because if you do really well in that, okay, now you're making a minimum wage salary. If you finish third, second, or first every single weekend, you get a minimum wage salary. Great. But for somebody who's below the top 4, top 5, this was a rough season, plus inflation, plus like airport prices went up and everything like that.
scheduling was tough too, because it was like, well, I got to make sure I reserve all of my weekends for the pro events just in case I do make them. So I can't schedule anything out to make it, trips out to where other tournaments where I could make some money. And it was odd because you're locked in almost, I think it was 12 weekends for all the tours, all tours plus the pros. So, he makes 1 or 2 of those the pros, great. But then I locked down weekends that I didn't actually need to lock down. And then I couldn't get, it's harder to get partners, and it was tough. There was a lot going into it this year that didn't have to really think about in the past. But yeah, I mean, like you said, if you're not making, I think I would figure it out where if I was getting fifths in the tour series stop, I was probably breaking even.
That's generous. But that's like, no, you were breaking even dollars, not
Right.
hours invested, right?
Agreed. Yeah.
Because that's now your 4 days, not down the hole, because you get to play volleyball. You're lucky. We got first world problems here, but but it'd be nice to get some extra prize money, or maybe less expenses, or pick less expensive weekends or something something has to change about this season, because from all the people, and you were the first one actually that I talked to where you weren't really pissed about everything that was happening. Everybody that I talked to before talking to you in the middle of the summer, I was like, the entire tour was frustrated at me. Like, what is this? What are we
Hmm.
doing? What's Bally's actually doing? What's the AVP actually doing? And there's a few like great people really working for the AVP and crushing it, and I think doing like really great things. Like, I'm a huge fan of Glazebrook. I think that guy's like a monster in terms of a workhorse, and I think he's good for the brand, and he's doing so many different responsibilities. But something about this season has to change for next season.
And I
Uh,
think it's going to. I've heard rumors that there's big changes coming.
oh yeah, like what? You don't have to share who
Uh,
said the rumors or anything, but what do you think might happen?
I hear that the tour series may be going away.
So no
Um,
more tiers.
I don't know any details about it, and I know there's nothing set in stone yet. But they, it seems like the tour series will probably be going away, and then maybe more pro stuff. I don't know how they're going to work it out. Maybe they're going to add qualifiers back in,
Mm. That
but
would be
or
fine.
maybe
I'm fine with a qualifier, because then at least you've only, if you lose or if you don't do so well or if you break even, all right, you've only dedicated one weekend to that instead of two, or one that you're like, okay, well, if I play in this, then in 6 weeks, then I have to reserve that weekend in case I win here.
it's
Yeah.
true. I mean, it didn't like I expected it to be easier to make money this year, and it
Oh,
seems.
as soon as I saw the schedule, I knew.
Hmm,
I was like, wait a second, this is, I think it was either the same or less total prize money. Then the AVP put like basically the AVP sticker and assigned points on top of people who have been doing monster tournaments for a long time, like the local tournament organizers, the Wapakas, the Seasides, like the Potsdams, the big shots. These people who have already built their tournaments, and the AVP like assigns points to it and says it's an AVP tournament. That same money was always available, but now they almost required you to go in order to get into the pro events.
that's true. Yeah. So the money was already going to be there. Like you could have won it without, yeah, without it
Without the
being AVP.
AVP
And you
sticker
feel
on
like
it.
you have to go to those because of the point system. Like,
And you do, because of the point
yeah,
system, right? Like, you have to find your way. If you're like a bubble player, you have to find your way into the pro events. But now you have to find your way by going to one of these ones around. I don't know. I think people who are listening and who have listened to a couple of mine feel like I've like lost faith in the AVP for this year, and I really kind of do think I have, and I'm hoping for a change. I'm hoping that these messages like get to them, and we find some solutions that can prevent the top 5 teams in the country from making minimum wage. Like just from playing the AVP.
yeah,
I think that would be nice. So
yeah. I mean, it is. I'll tell you what, I'm not in it for the money, so maybe that's why it's not as much of a concern for me. Like I have another full-time job, and
But
that
you're still like 17, right? Like, so like I wasn't thinking about money then either. Now, like at 37, I'm like, "Ugh,
I mean,
I
I'm
don't want to
29.
spend
I
this
got to
many weekends.
think about money, but I agree with you. It's like I I play it for the love of the game. I just go out there and I want to compete. So adding more opportunities for me, I'm not like, oh man, now I have to go and play more. But for the people that are relying on this as an income, that is a different story. I'm fortunate where I'm not, and I can kind of do this and be comfortable regardless of my outcome. But it's miserable for those not, and for those trying to make it in the game. They want to put all their full time into it and become a professional beach volleyball player. Now you almost have to lose money for a year while you break through into this system. It's difficult. It is difficult, and I don't have the solution. I don't know what it would be, but
I wonder how, like, if you look at like Formula One racers, like at what point does somebody look at a driver and say, "Yep, we're gonna fund and back this person"? Yeah, or
right. But
how
it's
are
we
they
don't seem
getting
to have
into
the
those
sponsorship
circles?
backing that like those guys do.
Yeah, they do,
There's a
but how
lot
do
of
you get
money.
to that level of that
I don't know.
sponsorship? I don't know either. Like, what cars are you racing, and how much are you spending in that racing world? Unless it's just maybe car racing or Formula One's just straight up a wealthy sport. Like, yeah, when you're 16, you're driving a car and your dad or whoever's totally fine with you totaling it.
Right. Right.
Huh.
I don't know. It's so tough to compare volleyball to other sports too, you know. There's
Yeah.
always seems to be like a market for tennis. They got rackets. We need our volleyball thing that we need to be able to sell to people, you
Right.
know.
Like the AVP should have bought Parkinson and Spectrum, like the portable net systems. The AVP should have bought those guys a long time ago because that will help fund some things as like a vertical thing. You know, like the NFL, the MLB, they sell their balls, they sell their logo, they sell their all the AVP has is Wilson volleyballs.
And like gear, shirts, but that's not going to do it.
That's not going to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um. Okay. One of our guys just who was here watching live, he wrote like, "What percentage of pros do you think have regular 8 to 5 jobs?" I wouldn't say that many of them have regular 8 to 5 jobs. Part of the faith that I have in a lot of like AVP volleyball players is their ability to create their schedule. And I think that it'll be next to impossible for so many of them to get into eventually 8 to 5 or 9 to 5 jobs because after 10 years of playing on the AVP, let's say you play from like 21 to 31, you've done nothing but create your own schedule, you know, and then to have somebody lock you into something 9 to 5. But you're quasi a 9 to 5er,
I mean,
right? So
I set my own schedule. I got to hit 40 hours every week about.
okay,
So
so you can move it around and you can switch it in your engineering job, right?
yeah, exactly. And
Okay.
I work with another volleyball player, so he gets it. He's like all about it. He's always got my back on it, and like, oh yeah, you need to be away this weekend. I got you covered.
That's
It's cool.
nice.
Yeah.
How, for the people who are doing it, like we get a lot of players who they got kids, they have jobs, they have family, and they're trying to not only play volleyball but actually improve it, and that requires hours. What is the hardest part about you having a full 40-hour job uh, and playing at the level that you do, where you're pushing that main draw envelope and winning money consistently as a pro player? You know, it's not a full time living yet, but you're doing it. What's the
Yeah.
hardest
I
part
mean,
about that?
the hardest part is getting a partner to consistently play with. I think that's by far the hardest because everyone sees you as, he's got a job. I don't know if I really want to play with him. I think that's the most difficult thing. It seems like you can always find people to train with after certain hours.
Mm.
Maybe you'll have to miss out on playing with certain guys, but you can find people to get out there with and put the time in with, and then you can always find someone else to do drills with. Drilling with anyone is the easiest because it doesn't matter the level that much. It's really when you need to get out and get your game like situation reps that you want to find the best competition. So that's the limiting factor there. Having to finish a day of work and then finding the people to play with instead of being in the mornings or in the afternoon, which a lot of people like to play in.
Mm.
You know, that I think is the most difficult, is getting the right people to play with. So you're limiting there, and then also getting those right people to play with you in tournaments.
Are you a before work practicer or a post work practicer?
I've done a couple this season, but I'm just about every day after work is usually how the schedule's working out. We've got lights at a couple parks near me, so we can make it work where we can do even a 7 o'clock start and be fine.
Oh wow, that's nice to have a park or a court with lights. That's for a lot of people, that's a game changer. For the indoor facilities in people's neighborhoods, like those are game changers too. But usually, if there's somebody owning a facility, like I'll be starting one in Chattanooga next spring, it's like that's gonna be leagues. You
I
know,
didn't know
like
you were starting there at Chattanooga. That's awesome.
yeah, man, I got the whole plan. Going traveling. Like so, right now we're in the end of September. I've got a couple weeks in Ireland, a couple weeks in Iceland. We're coming back. We're gonna maybe do here April 25th, and then in that time I'll be looking for like the real estate. And I've done all the numbers, I've done all the planning. Now I need a little bit of fundraising. So for anybody who's listening, any investors out there who want to make a little percentage or just absolutely love volleyball, I will be making a pretty large indoor outdoor facility in Chattanooga and going there. It's a great city. Me and Janelle got married there. It's like, yeah, it's got tons of outdoor. People love sports there, and it's big and it's centralized in between a few other like major ones like Nashville and Atlanta. Um, but it doesn't have any central hub for beach or grass
Hmm.
volleyball. And it's like, you know what? I want to live there. I like the state. I like the city. Janelle loves it. And it's like, this is a cool opportunity to really start a facility, and a sports complex is something that I've always had a passion to do. Like in my freshman year of college, I was like, I want to own a sports complex. And I knew it then. And so I think my life is eventually getting there.
Nice, dude. That's awesome. That's amazing. I mean, it seems like more and more people are being successful with that indoor beach court facility model, and that's really fun that you're getting to do it.
It's scary because there's a ton of fails. Um, there's people who think or assume the numbers. Like part of my advantage going into it is I've I've coached for multiple companies who run vacations. I've worked at facilities literally around the world. Like I got an offer to be the director of coaching for the largest indoor facility in the world in Gothenburg in Sweden, and that was years ago. So I know how all of these work, operate, and actually make money, but most people don't. They don't understand what programs are actually going to be the income, and then they really fail, or they try to do too much, or they aim in the wrong places. And
Hmm.
I've been talking with Nick from Highline a lot. Me and him have been texting back and forth, and I gave him a few ideas, and that guy's a business genius.
Oh my gosh, I
And
love
like,
talking to Nick about business stuff. He's
oh
great.
man, he's so smart. I love having him on my text now. Like me and him are just going back and forth. But even like some of the ideas that I gave him, he was like, oh man, yeah. So he completely switched one of his employees' roles this week to do
Hmm.
what we recommended at Big Shots, and so now she's going door to door selling a different service. And he's like, "We'll see how it goes." I'm like, "I think it's gonna work, man."
What's the different service?
Well,
Or can you not talk about it?
it's to give away all the industry secrets. A big part of it is leagues. Like you have to develop good, strong, solid adult leagues, and it's, well, how do we fit that? That you can't just chase volleyball players. Like
Mhm.
volleyball players are cheap, they're frugal. It's, and you don't have to be wealthy to play volleyball. So it's not like one of those. Like you can always charge high ticket opportunities if you're in tennis, if you're in golf, if you're in, I don't know, Formula One, whatever. Um, but you don't have to be wealthy to play beach volleyball, which is part of the great advantage of it. Like you can just get a Parkinson, you can tie up a clothesline in between two poles, right? So that means that you do have to offer multiple price points. Like you need your high end price points for like corporate parties and things like that. And then for your leagues, you got to make it a good price so that people enjoy it, so that you can grow the sport, so you can grow that giant bed.
Mhm.
Um, and you can't only rely on people already playing volleyball. So you have to find the people who are going to love volleyball, who you can help become fit and healthy through an innocent sport like
Hmm.
Sixes beer leagues. Like I know I said healthy and beer leagues in the same sport, but at least you're getting people moving, right?
Yeah.
And you're creating community out of something that wasn't there before. And if you're going to tell a 55-year-old, hey, you can play 6-on-6 sand volleyball and never get hurt, or you can go and play like your adult basketball league and bust up your knees, ankles, and hips and back, you should choose beach volleyball until you're 80.
Yeah. Yeah, it's true. And it is a lot healthier than people think. Like, I
Oh,
think there's something to do with was it anaerobic or aerobic, where you can talk and have a conversation while you're moving around?
oh
They
yeah,
say that that's like the best for burning fat, I think.
100%. Yeah, if you
So
if you choose
it's huge.
explosive exercises instead of the long pace ones, this is something like our vertical jump program. We always change people's fitness routine immediately. It's like, stop running a mile. It's funny because I'm not playing right now and I do like running. So I'm like, I changed my work. I ran a mile
Oh,
yesterday, 2 days ago, for the first time in 8 years. Right. I'm
oh,
like not focused on getting explosive anymore, but I like that distance. I like that middle distance. I've just not done it because it's so harmful. Aerobic is so harmful, not harmful, but it's not good for you to be explosive,
hmm,
right? And if you train to be explosive, if you train for strength, you develop more musculature. It's not going to make you big, but you train your muscles because you actually damage them, which is a good type of damage. And the healing process that helps you, it helps keep your metabolism higher for longer. So if you, uh, you know, bench press or squat for, let's say, a 20-minute session versus you go run for an hour. The strength training or the explosive training will leave a longer calorie burn. We're talking like more hours and days. And that means that your calorie, because your body has to take care and repair. So your body's actually spending more calories to repair itself than it would from the aerobic training, which means that you'll actually burn calories longer from explosive or strength training than you will from even longer, like 3 times as much bout of aerobic or like one running a mile or biking. So you burn more fat, you burn more calories from strength training, and you train your body to be explosive, which is good for volleyball instead of like running for long periods, which will get you good at running for long periods, but we don't do that in volleyball. So thank you for alluding to my exercise science side.
Yeah, so join a volleyball league. Don't waste your time in these basketball leagues. It's join us on the sand.
Yeah, and never turn an ankle, like ever.
It's true. It's true.
So all right, let's talk about like a little bit of inside trades. You can't train with people, but you know that you have to play with the best players. For you, you have a country to decide from, right? Or like that Rolodex of players who live everywhere. For a lot of people, it's within their area, like within their state that they need to go to. So how do you contact when you don't know the players, or you're running low on your Rolodex and you're like, man, there's only 2 or 3 more guys that I want to ask or that I'd want to play with, that I think I could be successful with. How do you contact them? What do you say to them on that first text?
I mean, it's tough. It's not easy. So, I think, like you said, though, like you might run out of, last people on your Rolodex. Well, I think my strategy over the years has been to get as many opportunities to play with different people as I could. Right. So make that Rolodex as big as I possibly could. So if I'm traveling somewhere, if I'm in Hawaii, then I'm going to try and find the best local volleyball crew and get some reps with those guys, get some games in, make friends, have some beers afterwards.
But how do you do that? Because you go to another city, you go to another court. What do you just show up to a court and say, hi guys, I play volleyball. And then like you show them a jump serve and they're like, oh, okay, be on my team. Is it because you're 6'5" or like what? I mean,
well, I think it's a little bit of like growing on what I already have. So if I have a friend like you, let's say I know I'm going out to California and I don't have any friends out there yet, but I know you've already moved out there. Hey, Mark, I'm going to be here these dates. Can you set me up with a group? Do you think there's anybody out there that maybe I could get some reps with? Let me know what you think. And then you'll shoot me a number and I say, oh, hey, yeah, these guys, they play at these courts around this time. Shoot them a text, see when they're available, if you can get in with that group. And hopefully, it goes well with those guys. And then maybe next time I am out there, if I am out there, then I get reps again with them. And then next thing you know, I meet a partner in their area and I'm like, hey, I think that you and I could play really well together.
That's how you lead it off. I think you and I can play really well together. Okay, that's your sweet talk.
I could see us, being a real good team. If you're available this weekend and want to give it a try, let me know. And most of those end up being rejections because they're busy or they already have somebody. But you just gotta kind of shoot until you get somebody. But I think growing that network
do you
beforehand
deal
is
with
big.
the rejection? Are you like, do you start hating them a little bit because you're like, you think you're too good for me? I get it. Does that put a chip on your shoulder, or do you just say like, it's a numbers game. I'm just gonna keep asking. Eventually, somebody will be open and say yes.
You can't take a rejection because it could be the person really did want to play with you and they've already committed to someone else. It could be maybe they just don't think that your talents will align, and you can't take it personally. It's not a personal. It's basically a business decision all the time, and just totally got to respect that.
Yeah, there's that one movie. I don't remember the name of the movie, but where the main character like doesn't talk to the girl, and he's like, she's taken. She's got a boyfriend, and I think his mom or some older lady is like, of course she's taken. Like if you have any appreciation for her, that means that she's going to be taken. The good ones are taken. That doesn't matter. Like, you keep going.
I guess
She's
that
not
works in
married,
volleyball, but
you
I don't
know.
know, maybe frowned upon in real life.
She's not married. I don't know. But sometimes you got to fight for the right partner, and sometimes that includes clawing back. Sometimes it includes just consistent requests or just hanging around for long
Beating
enough.
them,
Yeah.
beating them, I think is the best way.
Beating them in volleyball is definitely, I think, the best way to then broach that. But then if you get like to 18, 21 and you're like, hey, you want to play next tournament together? It's like, dude, I didn't even wake up until it was 11:11. Like,
Yeah. I mean, that's how I ended up with Jeff this season. We had that training
Jeff
session. It was with
Samuels,
you. Yeah. So
such a good blocker. God.
it was you, me, Jeff, and I think Frazier at practice this winter.
Oh, at Highline in Jersey. Yeah,
Yeah.
we did was that one of your 2 morning practices?
Yeah, it was. So Jeff texted me. He was in town. He was, hey, you guys want to get some reps? I know you're in Philly. And I was like, yeah, sure, I'll make it happen. So, and then I happened to be that you were in town too. So we set up a morning practice and went pretty well. And then, later in the season, I saw that he was arguing a little bit with his partner. So after we beat him, hey, Jeff, you have any interest in linking up maybe? And then we played right after that. So
Nice.
beating him, maybe the best way.
It's definitely the best way. I also like that you're in Philly. Highline is in Jersey, like just south of Staten Island. I was in Queens, so I got 2 boroughs to get through, and Jeff was hanging out wherever for a job. And for those of you who aren't a part of our Facebook, if you just search Volley Chat on Facebook, our group literally is built on people who want to make connections in different cities, different areas. So I was in New York, right? So I had to call all my tri-state area friends, I guess, and I'm like, hey, can we get together? Can we go to Central Park, maybe NJIT or something? Can we find a court? And Highline was open. They had a facility. So I had to drive an hour and 15 minutes. Your drive there is
Hour 20. Yeah.
hour 20. And Chris
Pick
is
up Jeff
probably
from
like
Center City.
45. But, even at this level, it's like, yeah, we're willing to drive to get a good practice with the right players. And that pays off. And that's kind of how ECM, like the East Coast Mafia, started back with me and Hudson and Eric Lucas and Zaun. Like, we were driving 2, 3, 4 hours just to get good training with the right people. And
That's
that was
my
our
week.
sacrifice. It's not available to everybody who's not like 20,
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's my week every week, and I do it after a full day's work. I'm driving up to Freehold, New Jersey it's an hour 20 away, once, maybe twice a week. It's not easy. It's not great, but to get good reps with a good group, it's me, Shane Donahue, Chris Frazier, Josue Castillo, Todd Strasburger. We got a good group up there every time, so it's worth it.
How would somebody try to get into that group? Like, I know Shane and Chris have been getting abused on Instagram lately from somebody who's a part of our online program for a little bit, and he keeps like posting replays of him posterizing them, which is so funny. But if somebody like is trying to get into your group, should they show highlights of them beating you, or should they just constantly like text you and say like, "Hey, I'm open for practice. I'm open for practice."
It's probably not the one where you post highlights. Because we're just gonna joke about that. But now the way it's just being super available, like
okay,
because if we ask you to be out there, hey, we need a guy, our fourth dropped, and you make it, great. Then you're on the list next time, especially if you play well. But if you show up late, you're not having a good day. We feel like, oh man, every single game he played, he lost. Maybe, and then it's going to be like, yeah, we're probably not going to invite that guy back. Or if he can't make it, then we go down the list again. You're going to be bottom of the list at that point.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, once you're unavailable once or twice, if you're available, you're at the top of the list every time, because now like you're the first one in mind because you think about your last practice. You're like, oh, let's just get the same crew. Like, wasn't so bad. So you call those same people. I like that being being available, I think, is important. And I tell
Yeah.
people who come out to California, they come out to Hermosa. This is, for me, this came from tennis in Queens. In like New York City, we have public parks. You pay a like $30 or $50 permit to play tennis, and that
Hmm.
includes your pass to all public tennis parks in New York City. And the model there is everybody goes to the public park. You just start serving alone, and when you see somebody else serving alone or sitting on the bench, you say, "Hey, you want to hit a round?"
Hmm.
And this is the entire culture of New York City tennis. That's what you do. You just show up alone. You go. You don't need to call anybody. And then when you're there, the first time you play against them, yeah, you get their number if you think it's like appropriate, or you say, "Hey, man, I know you're much better than me, but if you ever just like need a fourth or somebody to serve at you, like I would love to serve at you or just return your serves for a half hour." You know, and people love that. That's why I tell people to do with the open players in their region. I say, go and ask the open players if they want you to serve at them for a half hour, for 45 minutes. And they'll drool. They'll be like, what? Really? Uh, okay. Yeah. You know, they'll show up with their partner that they want to play with, and then of course, they're going to make a drill for you. Somehow you'll get involved, or a fourth will show up, and then you're ready to rock. No, but I think people are just too afraid of that weird feeling of rejection, and they miss out on so many opportunities just by saying, "Hey, I'm here. Hey, I can serve. Hey, I can feed."
Yeah, and I've this season probably struggled the most to find training partners, like just drilling. That's what I'm not gonna get you out to play until you get in drills with me,
Mm.
and then and just at least in my area, South Jersey, where I'm doing most of my drilling, it's like, nobody really wants to get after it. It's like you got to put the time in if you want to be good at this sport, and availability has been tough.
Are you one of the guys that thinks drills are more important than gameplay, or gameplay is more important than drills?
I think it depends on when the season, like at what point in the season you're doing them.
Mm.
So I think end of the season drilling can be really important because you've already got a good amount of game plan. But then beginning of the season, I think that you need to do both. I don't think you can just stick to drilling at that point.
Mm-hmm. Rohan just jumped on the chat. He's listening. He was ready to post his.
Oh, that's great. No, we love it. Keep it coming, Rohan.
Oh, every time I see Shane or Chris get posterized, it goes on fire in our text group.
It is good, and then they're always defending themselves, like you didn't even know the score, Mark. You beat them by so much, Mark. You don't know. It's good.
Shane, you got thumped on. Sorry, like don't peel. Nice. All right, so different time of year for reps versus gameplay.
What do you think about that?
I think it should come in cycles. For sure, different time of year, but the way we take, so like the players in our complete program. So here's what we're doing for the next 6 months is we're doing nutrition and fitness training, like heavy on that, and then some easy at-home ball control stuff. So we're giving the practice recommendations to our players, like, hey, go out and get like 1, maybe 2 ball control practices. But a lot of our work now is for sure fitness and nutrition, and then game film. What people don't understand about watching your film is that you win points without needing to step on a court. Like when you watch yourself, when somebody gives you advice, and the problem with watching your own film as well, and this is like probably an aside, but the problem with watching your own film is that it's confirmation bias. So all you look for are the things that you know, which can be helpful, right? So it's like, I think I should be here. So you come into your film with that. So you look for all the times you were there and you're like, I did good. And you look for all the times that you weren't where you think you should be. And you're like, I did bad. I need to fix that. Meanwhile, an AVP player can look at your film and go, you're completely in the wrong spot at the wrong time all the time. But you don't know that because you have these premeditated, beliefs of where you should be or where you shouldn't. And there's a huge problem in watching film alone. It's smart to watch film alone, but you have to add in a third eye somewhere to make sure that you're not like going so far down the wrong path that it's going to take you 5 hours to return, and get back on the right track. And that's what we do for our players with our online program. It's that confirmation bias that people are like, yeah, I did this well. It's like, yeah, you did it well, but it's not what you should have done. So I think watching film is important, but you have to at some point beg, ask, pay somebody to look at your game, study the film, and understand that. And some of our players, like right now, we've got one player who's like, oh man, I wasn't even looking for that. I thought I should have been there, but we were talking about the difference between a 4 and a 2. And whether she needed to be there to dig the heart-driven ball. She's like, see, I can't be there to dig the heart-driven ball. I'm leaving too late. And I was like, the 4 is not designed to dig a hard line swing. I go,
Right.
You're leaving way too early. And she's like, her brain explodes. And she's like, oh man, shoot. Okay. So that gives her the opportunity to then have the defense see her less before she steps on the court. She doesn't need to practice that. Now she knows the concept and she can apply that. And I did that a number of times in my career where I would watch film on somebody else, and myself, and then I would come out because of that film work and I would win, or I'd win individual points or individual situations. And people don't get that. And then you work with a coach with like Rich Lamborn, Jeff Alzina, Jordan Chang, and then they give that third eye, and they're like, actually, maybe you should consider trying this. And then that creates a whole nother revolution in your game. So
how much of your own personal game film do you watch? Do you like to watch every single match, just the ones you lose? What do you do?
I used to watch a lot more. I used to be, every day I would film, and I would probably watch at least a half hour.
Only your matches or practice too?
Of my practices.
Matches
I always used to watch. And then if you go into like an FIVB player tent, like World Tour, they're watching film in between their matches on the same day, saying, hey, look where you were, look what you need to fix. Okay, that's good. Now let's go check out the other team that we have next. We're going to check out their film. And then you kind of like look and see what their body mechanics are and where they're starting. So the better you get at the game, for most people, this isn't for everybody, right? Like, I forget that one NFL player who was like, you can't mandate me to be in the film room. And then Tom Brady was like, he's notorious for spending more hours than anybody in the video room, right? But this one guy, God, I forget the name. If anybody's who's watching live right now, Jamie, tell me about that NFL quarterback who doesn't need to be in the film room, right? He says like I shouldn't be mandated to do it. So I know some AVP players are like, I don't spend that much time watching film, but a lot of them really do, and with their coaches, and they review it. And you don't really have to watch as much film if you have a coach in place whose job it is to watch film and then put you somewhere at practice, right? And show you what you're doing wrong. But if you don't have that coach, then double down on film. So I used to watch a lot. Kyler Murray, thank you. Nice. Gotchas. Kyler Murray doesn't like film. Tom Brady can't get out of there enough, can't get in there enough. So in the beginning, I was watching a lot of film. And then I spent a lot of money getting coaches for me to sit on their couch. I said, no, we're not going to the court today. I'm going to go sit on your couch, and you're going to tell me everything that you don't like about my game, right? Or come on over, I'll give you some whiskey and your $150, whatever. And then you'll do the same in my living room. And those were by far like the most valuable coaching experience that I had was not on the court.
Yeah, no, I could use more of that, honestly. I probably should do what you're doing and bring like Shane Donahue out and have him look at my film.
Well, when we played against each other, right? I gave you like a little bit of tidbit, and I thought that the way that you beat us in Atlantic City, it was almost you applied a little bit more what we talked about and a little bit less of the problem, where you were dictating your offense instead of waiting for me to make a move. Like when we were serving you, you were choosing where you wanted to hit, and you were doing it quick and fast. There was no delay, no anything. And I was like, maybe I shouldn't have mentioned anything like midway through the season. But whether you listened to that or not, you were doing it way better than you were in the winter.
I did listen to it, and I went back and had practiced it. Wasn't at that point. I was past the point of like specifically thinking about it, but I may have already implemented it. So I think you might have a point. Shane just made a pretty funny comment. Been waiting so long for this Buick and Ferrari episode. I'm Chris Vaughan. I'm not John Ferrari, actually. A common mistake.
It's all their more handsome version of Ferrari.
I'll take it. But
okay, so finding partners, you're just basically showing up, being available.
Gotta be there.
And
gotta be on time.
You have to be on time. That's an adult thing that people don't realize. Like, hey, you actually have to be accountable. This is the stuff that like kids, teenagers, it's like you have to be accountable. Because if these 3 guys are waiting for you to show up and you killed an 1/8 of their practice because you're 15 minutes late, dude, that's unacceptable for them. So those little things like the be a good human, be a responsible human thing, they go a long damn way for you to like get the next practice partner or tournament partner.
Especially if you're the new guy. Like if you're the guy that's been there forever, you know, Chris Frazier is notorious for showing up late. and we let him get away with it because we love the guy. But yeah, so if you're the new guy, you better be on time. Better be maybe even get there early and warm up ahead of time. But yeah.
So what do you think from, because you grew up basically in the GAV, the Great American Volleyball System in New Jersey, learned a lot from Quantum Mania Volleyball, right?
Nice.
And you basically, instead of paying for tournament fees, you were setting up the volleyball courts just to pay for your entrance. So you went all the way from the BAAA level and now to the pro level. What in your experience has been the biggest difference between the guys you see in the low end of the opens, like pool play in the New Jersey tournaments of your open, or maybe even the AA guys, and the people you're meeting in the last round and 2 rounds of qualifiers on the national level? What's the difference that allows, I'll say, not for much longer, but I'll say guys like us to kind of blow people away in pool play or relax, you know, and then when we know that somebody's going to push us and now it's time to turn it on?
The biggest difference between those type of people, like you're saying, like just the bottom end of open, a local open, and like mid-level open, is just consistency.
In what? Like
in
hitting
almost
errors,
every
passing,
aspect
setting?
of their game, like passing. This guy is consistently passing a good ball. You know, this guy is making way less errors, and I think that's more of it. Even is making less mistakes. And when I mean mistakes, I don't mean necessarily hitting the ball out or hitting the ball into the net. It's more of like not hitting the ball right to him, not hitting the ball into a block. It's just way less mistakes in general. What do you think? I think that's the big separator for me.
Do you think that, before I give my opinion, is that like a mental thing? Is it a number of reps thing? Is it a how you practice thing? Because like mistakes, yeah, you know, I've felt somebody just hit a ball softly into my lap and be like, now it's my turn to bite, you know, and you can wait for that. You can see somebody bomb 3-4 balls in a row and then hit one out and you're like, I'm winning, right? Like that 5th ball, I don't care how much you bounce the first 4 and how good you're feeling, because I just waited out and I know that error's coming, you know, and that probably later in that set, you're going to shank one pass. But do you think that is that a mental growth thing? Is that something that people can overcome fast? Is that years, mental errors, physical errors? What has gotten you to the level where you can like pretty much, I'm not going to say it right, but chill in pool play of an open tournament?
I think it's a combo of things, but I think a lot of it is putting the time in, getting those reps, making sure you're not making the little ball control touch errors where, you know, you just missed your hand on that one, or you weren't quite focused and you shanked a pass. So that I think comes with reps. But then I think some of the attacking and other things are decision making. And I think decision making comes with time and putting the time in and playing at all these different levels. So when I say decision making, I mean, you got a set that's not exactly where you expect it to be. What are you going to go with and do with this? Are you going to jump off the net a little bit and roll a ball to a spot where the other player isn't? Are you still going to try and attack the ball as hard as you can? Are you going to stay on the ground and just keep the ball in play in any way you can? I think those decisions are a big difference maker in that bottom level of open versus mid to top of open.
It's crazy when you can recognize low open players from the pro players. From it's not the amazing shots, it's not the ones where they're like off balance or somebody peeled, they got a bad set, now they get this miraculous kill. The pros are the ones who are off balance and they shoot a medium ball to a decent spot instead of going for that kill. Like I think a lot of maybe it's different in the women's game, I'm not sure, but a lot of like the open guys, when you're taking a look at this like 22-year-old testosterone filled dude across the net from you, and they just want to hammer it, and they're like, they get a bad set, bad pass, bad set, and like, I have to kill it, instead of slowing your brain down, recognizing and saying, we're in trouble, how can I not make an error and give them a little bit of discomfort and then reset this? But so many people throw haymakers when they're defenseless, and then that's it. You throw one haymaker and you miss, it's over because they're coming out after that. So that's a fight metaphor, but in volleyball, it's you miss, it's an error, it's a point, and you're done. Mm-hmm. So I think a lot of it comes from that patience of being like, well, we're gonna get another dig, another set, and I'm gonna make them earn this. The best friend for me, and one of the coaches that I hired for a while, who made a big difference in our game, he said, Mark, when you're in trouble, what do you hit? And I was like, oh, well, like, where am I on the court? Like, is it like a tight set? What do you mean in trouble? He goes, no, like, hey, when you're uncomfortable, what shot do you? And I had a number, a list of answers. And he goes, okay, I'll stop you because you're struggling. He goes, 10 out of 10 of the world's best players answer it this way. Deep middle.
Okay.
You're off balance. You're in trouble. You don't know what to do. What is the shot that you should go for? Fast, deep middle. Not power, not swing, not bomb. If you're kind of like feeling weird, it's like you need to have a plan for when you're in trouble. And a lot of players just come into offense, especially without a plan of what they're going to do or enough reps at, all right, yeah, crap set, crap pass, let me keep it in. It's like they try to get all of this input from the environment of what's happening and where's it going, and then they try to see the defense and they try to make a calculation in that moment of how hard they can swing and where they should do it. And it's just like, no, the whole thing's busted. Just punt, and like a lot of NFL teams, they just punt, right? Like 4th down and 5. What are you going for? Oh, well, what's the situation? But what? NFL coaches are answering, you punt, right? And that's what I think that difference offensively for a lot of open players, and for sure it'll get you winning tournaments fast if you're A, B, AA. Like, you start burying balls deep middle, and not even burying, just slapping them there, that causes a lot of trouble.
I think that is a great move for most players. I mean, you get some other people that are like, cut shot in that situation. I wasn't sure what you were going to say. Like Rafu, he's going to cut me up all day. So
he's nasty.
It depends on what you have. If you're Rafu, maybe you stick with the cut.
Right.
But I agree. Deep middle when you're in a fiddle is definitely the way to go. And I think that is a big difference.
30 years ago, like, it still applies.
Yeah.
It applied for sure more. And it was definitely friendlier for people when it was big court, but it still applies in small court.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you.
It's kind of like the free ball question for indoor players. It's like, hey, where do we go when we have to send a free ball? Like, you're sending it to 1 or 2, somewhere in between. Done. Mm-hmm. Answer. Like that. If you had to give one answer, that would be your generic answer if you're a smart coach or a smart player.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, so the big difference between that bottom level is just that consistency, and that I think is one of the big things is decision making, and then getting those reps so that way you're not making the stupid ball touch errors that you wouldn't normally make if you had put the time in and got those reps that you need.
I would say, what number would you say for players that if they get aced this many times, they're not ready to play at the qualifier level?
In a game or in a match?
Let's
Like
go
in a
per set.
full per set? One. If you're getting aced once per set, I don't think you're ready. At
I
that
give
level,
I
yeah.
give the same answer. It
Yeah.
can't be more than 1%.
Yeah. Even one is not good. I
No
mean,
way.
maybe if it's a real windy day, it's going to be tough, but regularly one is not good.
Right. Yeah. So guys, you're out there, you're playing, and one needs to be your upper limit. And if it's more than that, go back to the drawing board. Pass
And that's
10,000
aces
more
though.
balls.
That's aces though. We're all right with the you laid out for a good serve and it ended up being not a great pass and you had to make something happen, but you're going to convert on some of those. So
Yeah.
the ace is really way worse than a bad pass.
And we'll let you get like 2 medium passes per set, right? That's got to be the limit too. And a medium pass is like something where it's not an overpass, because that to me counts as an ace, right? But if you're sitting
Yeah.
there and you've now got like 3 medium passes, like 3 that ended up in the back half of the court or off of your sideline or where your setter was kind of freaking out, way too much. Cap it at getting ace once, and if you're above that, if you know that like you can remember that your average is more than 1 per set, you're not ready.
Yeah.
Go back and pass and pass and pass.
And we'll make some exceptions for you. If you're like a 6'8" stud that can, because I'm confident if you pass the ball in the back third of the court and I can put you up, I can probably put you up to the net. I think I would consider that a medium pass, back third of the court. If you're a 6'8" stud that's going to go up and bounce every ball, I'm all right with it. What do you think? You think that's that's not going to work?
No.
You're not serving that guy.
Yes, I am.
You're going to serve that guy if he passes the ball 3 times in the back third of the court?
100%. That's way better opportunities. I mean, okay, you got to look at like his side out ratio, who's setting him. There's a bunch of other variables. But if this guy's always getting himself in trouble and then he's blind when he's swinging and he's have to hit a ball from behind himself, yeah, I'm going to serve the guy who has to hit from behind himself all the time. I don't care if you're 8 foot. Like if you can't pass the ball and hit where the setter, the ball is in front of you, you're blind. And I'll play against a blind player all day. So no, that doesn't matter to me. Is there a caveat to, all right, you got a 5'4" defender with that guy and he can't hit down, even when he's in system? Okay, there's a caveat there. But against anybody else who can hit flat or down,
well,
serve the guy who's going to make shanks.
I'll pick the 6'8" guy who passes them back third of the court. You get whoever you want. We'll see who you serve.
Okay. Deal. But you played with a 6'1" guy this weekend, and you did just fine. But that was
like
also another thing,
guy.
right? Like we couldn't. It was tough to get you guys out of system. You guys were passing well, setting well, weren't making those mistakes, and we tried to bring it a few times, and the passing consistency was there, and then no errors. You have to force errors, and if you're making errors, that's it. I would say the same thing for shanks and aces as I would for hitting errors. Like if you make more than 1 hitting error in a match, you're really in trouble. If you're averaging that, that's a problem.
Yeah.
I might say 1 hitting error and 1, if you're getting served every single ball, 1 hitting error and once getting blocked for a point, a stuff point. That is your
right. And you're not counting like shots that happen to go to the wrong spot. You're just counting balls that I hit out and blocked.
You still got to earn it. After I hit it in, after I miss, you still got to earn it. Mm-hmm. But that was the one thing that I changed in my offense, and that was like an immediate 10% increase. was when I worked again with Jordan Chang for the Pan Am Games. He was like, can we just look at your side out percentage or your hitting percentage when you're in system versus when you're in transition? And I was 20% lower when I was in transition. He's like, all of your hitting errors come after you make a dig. None of them come like when you're just serve receive in system. And so that was something we had to come up with a plan for my offense. And then when I applied that summer, like my offense saw a major uptick. And
so what did you change for that? Just decision making, or was it
having a plan?
Set?
Again, it came to having a plan. It's like, all right, you know what? I need to stop thinking about this like an open table, that I could do anything from this dig situation. So if the ball, like if I pass or dig a ball and it comes from behind me, or I'm on the ground, like I have to dive and now I'm in a rush, I've got two options. One of them, if I hear my player say, if the ball's behind me and I hear my player say like line, I'm waiting for him to let me know that a blocker's there. If blocker's there, I'm hitting line. And if I hear that like legal, I'm just going aggressively at the seam. There was no over poke, hard cross, hard line, cut shot, maybe jumbo, like all of those decisions that you want to try to come up with. And we know this from emergency training, from like my brothers in the FDNY and everything like that. Like you need to absolutely minimize the decision-making process when you're in trouble, when you're in an emergency. So if you still think that you have 8 swings when you're in a bad situation, cut it down to 2 and you'll immediately mitigate your errors.
I like that. I think in my game, I still leave it in the wide open, and maybe that's something good to add in and try out. Cut it down to 2. Yeah.
Or maybe if someone were to like stat your game, they'd say, "Oh, this is what you do in transition." So like maybe you're already unconsciously doing that. Maybe
could
not.
Be.
But all those I think people can really apply and try it. Try it on for yourself. If you hate it, if you hate playing with a plan, okay, move on and say that was a crappy podcast. But figure it out.
Got a question from Rohan. Are quality level players tracking their stats, attack percentage, passing, pass rating, blocks, etc.?
If they were, they would probably be closer to being open players.
Well, I mean, quality level players I think are open players, but I think that's what he means, like quality, like, right? I don't think most of them are. What do you think?
Are they tracking their stats? I don't think most of them are. Should they be? Yes. I mean, there's no doubt that you can't improve what you don't measure. This is the stuff. This is why we get results. This is why I get like the texts on Saturday nights from my players, like the online players, say like, dude, finish second. Like won my pool today for the first time, where we get these new upticks, these new results from the players that we're coaching. It's because we have them measure and we have them improve on those. But if you don't know what you're squatting, how do you know what percentage you need to squat that day in order to increase your 1 rep max so you can get faster, right? If you don't know what your vertical is, what are you just going to shoot in the dark and hope that you're jumping higher? How do you know what you're doing is working or not? If you're not measuring anything, you're an engineer, you get this. Like if you just don't use any measurements, how are you going to fix anything? How are you going to aim at a process or a way to do it that's going to get you there? And so the simplest one that I could give everybody is have somebody serve you 10 balls every day. Every time you go a thing, have somebody serve you 10 balls. Write down every single time if it was a perfect pass, good pass, or bad pass. Keep track of that. And just like keep it on. That's the simplest way you could do it. So
I like that. I've statted some of my games, but I haven't gone back and statted all of them. It's not a bad idea. I mean, especially off season now. Might as well go back and the ones that I have film on.
Oh yeah, and then just take a look at.
Stat
I
all
would
of
say
yours
for
still?
you, I used to have people do it for me. Because we had, especially when I was playing for USA for like some of the World Tour events way back when, and then Pan Ams when we got to have those coaches, like you're always measuring that finances versus coaching, and like how much is this coaching investment actually going to return on financial investment? I didn't used to look at it that way. Last like 5 years I have. But those were the differences that came. And because I had a measurement, because I had Jordan taking my side out stat or my hitting percentage stats from in system versus out of system, now I got some answers and I got something to work on instead of missing a cut shot on match point and being like, God, I got to go and hit 100 cut shots. It's like, wait a second, you hit 4 high lines out of bounds during that set. Like, and you're most mad because you remember the miscut shot on match point. Now that wasn't the problem. So it's kind of nice.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that.
What's the hardest part for you about? Let's go. Let's change it instead of hard. I'd like to hear like a good boys story from the road, or just something fun or stupid that happened while you were traveling or playing for volleyball. I want to smile for a bit at the end of this.
Oh man, I got to think back to which one I can tell first of all. Oh man, what? This past year, I feel like everything was because we were playing a lot of, taking it all pretty seriously and didn't have time to like go out and travel. Nothing crazy happened this season. Other years, let's think.
You got to have a good Spieler story.
A good what story?
Katie Spieler. I mean, she's just awesome to hang out with. She's so much fun. Like, so open to hanging with everybody. And her dance moves will just create a riot wherever she is.
All right, I got a good Spieler story.
Yes.
So one time it was after a tournament. I think it was probably Saturday night. And we went to Tower 12. And we were causing some trouble there,
Hermosa Beach, Tower 12. Yep. If you're in Hermosa Beach, you got to go there. Okay, go ahead.
And we were, for whatever reason, we were just eating full limes, like peel and all. Katie doesn't drink much, so we were just doing whatever we could to be hilarious. And then we went across the street. I think it's Sharky's that has like the free ice cream in the back.
Mm-hmm. Junkies. American Junkies okay. Free ice cream. Yeah. Yeah.
So they had a one of those wheels. You know what I'm talking about? Like the shot wheel. Pay $20, get a shot, and you got to spin the wheel. And I was like, "Oh, Katie, I bought you a shot. Go up there. It'll be great. You like go up on stage and spin this wheel." So she gets up there, spins the wheel, and it lands on like paddle. And we're like, "What's a paddle shot? What does that mean?" And Mark, did I lose you? Uh-oh. Okay. You're kind of frozen. So,
all right.
So what's a paddle shot? And the person reaches back and pulls out this wooden paddle. And I'm like, "No, not to Katie. Like, she's the best, nicest girl in the world. You can't do this." So this girl like shoves her over and just starts smacking her in the back. I'm like, "No, I'm such a jerk. God. What have I done to Katie Spieler?" I felt terrible. The girl really went at her too. Like, she hit her real good. And then she'd get to take a shot after that. I was like, I am the worst.
Oh my goodness. That's all your fault.
Yeah, I know.
I blame you.
Yeah, it was bad. I should have jumped up on stage and like played defense, but
shock and awe. Caught you.
Yeah.
What's the best tournament? If you were to give one recommendation for a tournament that people should definitely go to, like that they can't miss, they should put on their bucket list, where should they go? What would be your top?
I mean, I've done quite a few of the bucket list tournaments. I think my favorite by far is Wapaka.
Oh yeah?
I think Wapaka, if you camp, is a full experience, and it's
totally
awesome.
Agree. You have to camp. You got to be in the trailer or the campground. You got to know that it's going to be a mess. Go ahead.
It's awesome, and it's going to be a little bit adverse being out there, dirty, smelly. You're going to be in a shower that like 50 other people have showered within the hour in. But staying up all night for the party, and then there's a party afterwards at the campground. People just getting rowdy till like 6 a.m. It was like no other when I was doing that. I've camped out
love
there
that tournament.
twice. Oh,
The
it's awesome.
Midwesterners, oh my god, like Minnesota, Wisconsin, like everybody, that is their tournament. Like they own it. That's comparative to me to like Seaside. Like Seaside is proud to have that. It's all their people. Pottstown is similar. I would just like some sort of like accommodations. I kind of do wish the finals ended on Saturday night. I don't know.
Pottstown's fun. It's volleyball.
It's family
It's
fun.
it's
I think
serious
Pottstown is
volleyball.
way
Yeah.
better for like family fun, you know. And I think they also market themselves that way because they got good people running it, good people organizing it, and it's the same crew year after year. It is nowhere near as sloppy as Wapaka though.
I mean, I woke up on a Sunday morning at Wapaka with a random guy in our tent. Uh, me, Kyle Stevenson, Chris Long. I don't know who, a couple others probably in the tent. And Kyle's like, yeah, this guy kind of started crawling in our tent in the middle of the night. And I said, it's fine. Just leave your feet outside. So he he had this guy's feet hanging out. He zipped them closed. We're like, hey, man, good morning.
That was it.
Yeah, it was cool. And then he got up and left. He's
I
like,
wonder
yeah,
if
I
it
couldn't
was
find
me.
my tent.
Because I did the Wapaka tour one time, and I definitely didn't have a tent, didn't have a camper, and I think that night like I slept in like 3 different places, but made it to the semis the next day. That was pretty good.
There you go.
No, but I just remember like, oh man, I could try to find a taxi, and it's like where I was staying was like an hour and 20 minutes away. I was like,
Oof.
why don't I just see if I could stay up all night and do this, you know? And maybe that's why
You
I got
stayed up all night
semis
on
instead of
Friday
first.
night and then played Saturday?
I don't remember which one it was because
Jeez.
what was it? The triples, grass triples, and then twos. So me and Shane played in grass triples and sand twos. And
Sand twos is usually before it. And
usually,
then
I mean, I don't. This is
maybe it
so
was
long
different
ago
back
now.
then. Yeah, you're old.
Yeah, trust me, I know.
But yeah, Wapaka. That I haven't done Seaside yet. I'm looking forward to making a trip out there eventually. But
Dude, Bibione, the tournament in Italy, they asked me to come this year. They kind of like want to feature us or like get us to spread it to North America. And a group of our friends in Hermosa were like, that Bibione tournament, it's the largest tournament in the world. And it's in Bibione, Italy. And if you guys haven't, if you're listening right now and you haven't checked it out, just go check out the website. It is the biggest European volleyball party you can ever imagine. And it's like clubs and like the type of like clubby European songs and players party, you know? So that's definitely on the bucket list. I just don't know if I'll ever get to it. I assume at some point I might, but that ship might have sailed. We'll see.
I haven't been to that one yet either. I've heard of it though. I've heard it's wild.
Man,
Yeah.
so awesome. Oh, Austria throws good volleyball tournaments. If you guys need to play in any tournament in Austria, have to go there.
When I did the snow thing with the
Oh,
US
that's right.
volleyball.
Tell
we
me
were in
about
Austria.
snow volleyball. I hate it. I mean, I've never played it, but I hate it. I hate looking at it. It looks unathletic. It looks like people are off balance the whole time. Like you're barely just trying to stay on your feet. What was your feelings about it?
I mean, it was kind of like playing grass volleyball when it had just rained.
Okay.
And if you maybe didn't have the right shoes for it. So like you could get it done, but it was a little bit it was triples.
Everything's got to be perfect.
Yeah, you gotta make sure like you can't make any super strong cuts.
Okay.
It was like, you know, if somebody makes the right shot, it's gonna go down because you can't make a big cut to go get it. It was fun. It was a good experience. I mean, USA Volleyball really hooked it up. It was an awesome time. We played in Austria, and then we took a bus over to Italy, stayed in Italy for a week, and then played in Italy. it was an incredible experience. It was me, Eric Zahn, Chase Frischman, and Travis Mewiter.
What a
It was a
crew.
threes event. It was cool. I mean, and the only thing that was a
Oh,
little like funny to me was that everyone there is like, well, most of the people there from other countries, that's what they play. They play snow volleyball.
no way.
Yeah, like they are playing
Like
snow
they took it
volleyball.
seriously?
Oh yeah. I mean, not all the
Oh, wow.
teams, but like Poland, we beat Poland. I think it was to make it into the quarterfinals. It was Poland's like twos team, I think. And the guys were crying after it. Yeah, it was cool though because we had the CEO of USA Volleyball watching us, Jamie. I can't remember his last name, but he was there, so it was like a lot of pressure,
Oh, man.
and those guys were so disappointed that it
Was
made
he
us look
trying to see
really
if it
good.
was like a viable opportunity for him? Like,
That, or
should
maybe
we
he just
start
wanted
this in
to,
Colorado or Utah or something?
maybe he wanted a trip to Austria and Italy, but
There you go.
uh,
Yeah. Business expense.
but because obviously it didn't happen. Like we don't have much snow volleyball in the U.S. And he was only there for like a day or two.
Mm.
But it was cool. I mean, the FIVB was pushing it. They're like, I think their goal is to get into the Olympics eventually.
I think that's ridiculous. Sorry if I'm offending anybody, but the snow volleyball thing, like how off balance you are, how slow it is. I don't know. It's for me, it wasn't a fun, other than the McKibbins making like a cool video and experiential video out of it. I just didn't think it was fun volleyball to watch because you recognize that people are just trying to stay on their feet. Like when you watch hockey, people aren't trying to stay on their feet; they're just skating. You know?
Mhm. It. I think maybe you've seen some tough clips because it wasn't as bad as you're saying, but it
Okay.
was. It's not. You're not moving around super well, but you could play the sport. It ends up being a lot of blocking volleyball and stuff like that because it's like you can jump pretty well, like still because it's hard packed ground,
Mm.
and then it's a small court threes, so get a decent block up, maybe a little uncomfortable not getting your feet to the set, and ends up being a lot of bomb it, block it style volleyball. But think about it this way: the Winter Olympics, there's not much to watch. Like it's kind of boring if you don't want to watch skiing. So give me a ball sport in there.
All right. All right. Yeah. What ball sports? There's hockey. I mean, you got hockey. I
Just hockey.
I don't think anything's going to take like snowboarding off of TV during the Winter Olympics. It's just they've come up with too many events. It's all too cool to watch. Ugh,
That's true.
that's that'll be tough to
It's
knock
snowboarding
off.
is the only other thing. Hockey and snowboarding are the only things I'm watching in the Winter Olympics.
Yeah. I'm trying to think now. What else is there? Speed skating. Speed skating's they make it fun. The announcers make it fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, so what's a you're now kind of almost officially off season. I don't know. Are you playing the fall and winter AVP tournaments down in Florida and
So they
Huntington?
canceled, I didn't make it into the Orlando one.
Okay.
That was based on Virginia Beach, so I'm not
We're
going to be playing
running
in that.
a clinic in Tavares in Orlando at that facility. So, side commercial for us guys, if you want to come to a clinic, if you're in the Orlando area or you just want a trip to Orlando, we're running a 1-day clinic in Tavares at one of the nicest outdoor beach volleyball facilities in the country at Tavares. So check out betterbeach.com/clinics if you guys want to join that. And we've got a number of cities also popping up. We're like pumping our schedule with clinics. So next few months are going to be nuts for us with camps and clinics all around the country. So take a look if you want to come to a camp, betterbeach.com/camps. If you want to host or see if one of our next clinics is in your neighborhood, go to betterbeach.com/clinics. So you didn't make it into the Orlando
Yeah.
one, but that still leaves AVP Huntington open, right?
Just Huntington. I'm thinking about it, but it's been a lot of travel this year, and I think that'll probably be the most difficult tour stop of the season. I'm
I
just
think a
kind of
lot of
like,
people feel
back to
that. It's like,
California. I'm not going to
I
be
don't
able
know.
to get the best reps in before it, so it could be
Right.
tough.
I mean, most of the country's like, it's getting too cold. Do you really want to not train? Do you want to throw a tournament in the middle of like your off season? That's a tough decision. For California, it's easy. People are just going to kind of show up and treat it like it's a local open. But for anybody from the East and Midwest, it's like, why? Why do they throw a big points tournament during this time?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, are you going to be out there for it?
No, we'll be so we have a camp. Our October 30th camp is sold out. We have a November 13th. We have a camp, which I think is the week before or after
Mhm.
that. Um,
Something like that, yeah.
and at some point, I was like, you know what? I don't know if I could throw an event around this because almost all of our coaches are AVP players. But then I got word that enough people weren't going to go to that, or they could make it like a 1 day exception. So we ended up throwing another event. So November 7th, we have another camp. And then the week right after Thanksgiving, we also have another camp. So, but we're going to throw a big better at beach tournament down in Florida. If you want to come
A tournament, is that what you said?
for one of those camps, yeah, might be easier and a lot more fun because we got a postcard in. They've got like a bar right on the beach, and it's at a hotel. So we figured, you know what, we're there. We've got at least 70 people total at each camp. We might as well throw a really cool event and get some pros out there and make it
Florida's a
like a
lot cheaper
fun
to get
loose one.
to,
Oh my god,
so
so
always an
nice.
option for me. Yeah. And so also another thing, I've been fighting through some injuries this
Mm.
second half of the season. I've just been like injury after injury, so I'm kind of like looking forward to just rehabbing and then get my body back where it needs to be this off season.
Do our foundations program. That's what it was built for. It's built for rehabbing all the injuries. I'll talk to you after this, but it's the 21-day athletic foundations. It's 21 days of nothing but mobility, prehab, and rehab, and then it
Mhm.
slowly works your way back into lifting after you fix all those problems. And we do it like on film. We have our guys leading the way. I'd be more than happy to have you in that.
Yeah, I did one last winter, a type of thing, not better at beach, and it wasn't. It was good. It was good, and it just didn't quite work for me. I found that I had more injuries this year, so
Oh God,
something else new would be good. I'd like to try that.
yeah, I'll send it to you. That's easy. Cool. And then next year, who's your dream partner?
Phil Dahlhauser.
He's done. Can't choose him.
Well, uh, dream partner,
Yeah, like
realistic partner, or like,
no, dream American partner. Because I mean, you flipped between defender and blocker. Like you can play either.
Mhm.
So, what would you play, and who would be your partner?
Well, if I'm going to play at a high level, it's got to be. I have to be a defender. I'm just
Mhm.
not big enough of a factor as a blocker. So I got to look at the blockers. Who's top right now? I think Triborn's staying at the net. That's who I'm taking.
Oh, okay,
And
nice.
I
Getting
want
all
a little bit
defense.
of a brain uh, talking him through some points too, other than his coach,
Smart.
because
He's a smart player.
I think with some like because he's always about oh at least he talks as if he is on his podcast um, that he just wants to play and be out there and react. And I think if you pair that with me, I like to plan and scout and
Mm.
make decisions ahead of time. You know, hey, we're gonna run this guy this, and then we're gonna show him this towards the second half of the game, and it's gonna mess him up completely, and then we're gonna score a lot of points that way.
Yeah.
So I
It
think
was
that pairing could be good.
it was so fun having him. If you guys haven't listened to it, we've got an episode. I forget the number, which episode it was, but it was with Triborn, and he talks about the way he trains and how everything is about feeling for him. Like he bought Steph Curry's masterclass on shooting, and he was just like, man, me and him think about the game the same way. Like Tri will pass just half court free balls for like 20, 25 minutes until it feels good for him. Steph
Hmm.
Curry will sit there from 2 feet from the basket and make sure that he felt comfortable draining multiple in a row before he steps back. Like he doesn't just get out there and start bombing threes. And so
Hmm.
our podcast with him was, I love the way Tri thinks about the game. And he isn't so reactionary, but he does like to feel things. And then as far as like game planning, he told us on his way to winning Manhattan, he was like, we literally ran a one block 98% of the plays. Like,
Hmm.
he was like, yeah, that's what we did. And then there were a couple of random situations that we knew we had to switch that block, but it was
What
just
do you? I don't
lentil
agree with
dice.
that. What do you think?
I think most people should be running one blocks very, very, very consistently. People flip between 1, 2, 3, and 4 constantly. It should be like 7. If I were to structure it, if I had to give you like an out of 10 answer, I would say block 1 6 times, block 3 4s, and block a 2. Like that would
Okay.
be it. You know, not necessarily in that order, but that would be like the mix.
Hmm. I like threes a lot. You don't like threes?
No, they're garbage.
Oh, that's funny.
They're only good if you can, like, if you have a blocker who can like really reach over and take that and take over. But to run a legit 3 and get a dig on it, nah. A 3 to me is designed to get a stuff block down the line. And
Well, I
need
guess it
a
depends on
block
how
that's
you
got
run
the
your
arms.
3. Because my 3 is almost like a fake 4.
Oh, okay. So you throw that shimmy. I remember one of your shimmies. Yeah, like
Mhm.
a little juking back there. I think you got me on one of those. But yeah, it's tough to ask players at like the B, A, or AA level to run a 3 properly to the point where it's going to pay off. It's like I would rather just run a 1, but have the blocker run a 3. So like
Okay.
leave my defender in a diagonal and then get that hitter real thirsty down the line, and then have a big hand play or like a big move, but then you also need that size blocker in front of you. So again, it's something that I'm not teaching or asking of for anybody who doesn't have like a athletic, experienced 6'3" or above blocker.
Yeah. No, I agree. A true 3 where you line up on the line as a defender and then run all the way. I agree. I don't think that's the best play. I leave
Brutal.
them out, but I definitely mix in my fake
Shimmy
4s,
3.
which I call a 3. Yeah, my shimmy
Yeah.
3, we can call it.
Nice. All right, man. We've got it on the screen here, but guys, if you are interested in seeing what Vaughan is doing, his Instagram is at Chris Vaughan BVB. So that's Chris CHRIS Vaughan VAUGHAN BVB. Of course, we're also going to link that in the show notes, so you can definitely find him. But if you were to give advice to your 17-year-old self setting up the nets at Gav to sign off, what advice would you give 17-year-old Vaughan about volleyball?
Let me think about this for a second. You got to put the time in. It's all about putting the time in. If you are able to go out there and every day that you have a second to think volleyball, to review film, to knuckle a ball around in your bedroom, get another partner out there and serve balls at each other, all of that time adds up and it will pay off. And if you don't put the time in, you won't see the success that you need to get.
Awesome. Thanks, buddy. Good talk.
Thanks for having me, Mark.
Great episode. That was fun.
Yeah.
All right. I'll see you out there. Light up. Guys, cool episode. For me and Chris, he's become, he was the really young guy for a while in our group, but he was always like pushing that envelope. And then, before I left the game, he got me. He made sure that he got his win on me here in Atlantic City. Big shots, and he's just a good guy, and he's fun, and he's funny, and he's wild, but he's also like incredibly brilliant, like a real smart guy. So it'll be fun to see what he does with volleyball in his life, because he's one of those people who's super capable of a lot in his life, but he also is obsessed with volleyball. So we'll see which way he decides to turn or pursue, and either way, you should be excited to watch him. So it's always good to have a buddy on the show, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. Go follow him, Chris Vaughan BVB on Instagram. And if you have any questions for us guys, always, of course, email support@betteratbeach.com. Know that we have camps, we have clinics. You can bring us out to your hometown for a clinic. Send us an email, or you can join one of ours. Just go to betteratbeach.com/clinics. We are running them around the country. So check out that page. It's got all the information about how to get us and a few other AVP players under the Better Beach system to run the show in your town. Other than that, like I said at the beginning of the show, Brandon and I are each taking 12 athletes and guiding them for an entire season. everything from fitness to lifting to mentorship to uh, mentality training, as well as strategizing for your matches and tournaments. We really are looking forward to working with just a few dedicated athletes. So if you want to work with us and you want an AVP player literally uh, on your sidelines and able to text us, able to call us, able to ask us personal questions and game strategy and everything like that, along with all of our courses on betteratbeach.com. I'm looking forward to coaching you, getting to work with you. That's it from me. If you got any questions, hit us up. Support at betteratbeach.com. Thanks for your attention. Thanks for your time. Good luck in your games, and we will see you on the sand.